what, 200 million revenue, 800 employees, guys doing 40 million, 50. You just have all those clients. How many clients do you have?
Easily over 700.
I assume everyone knows you in the stone industry because you're such a people person. That's number one. The way you can spread your attention. Like, I can't do it.
Today's guest is Joe Alva, founder and CEO of Poseidon Industries, a man who didn't just enter an industry, but decided to compete with the giants inside it. Joe is an inventor, engineer, and entrepreneur who built an American manufacturing company in one of the most unforgiving arenas there is, industrial machinery.
Welcome to another episode of the Executive Lounge podcast. Today, with me in the studio, we have Mr. Joe Alva, Poseidon. Joe, welcome
Poseidon
to the
Industries.
podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, thank you for being here. It's been an awesome time with you. We spent like 3 days in Miami.
Yeah.
In the Poseidon van.
It was a
driving around.
Game of Stones podcast event where we usually bring our guests in. We take them out to dinner. We take them to see a little bit of the nightlife and the culture in Miami, which is where I grew up. I don't live there anymore, but we like to go there because it's a nice destination.
And I've never experienced anything like that before when it comes to the van and how, well, not only we had like 4 of your clients in the van and we did podcasts together, we ate together, we stayed at the Trump Hotel in Miami, and awesome experience, I mean, guys doing what, 200 million revenue, something like that, 800 employees, guys doing 40 million, 50. You just have all those clients. How many clients do you have, Joe?
I think over the past 25 years, which is how long I've been in business for myself in the stone industry, probably easily over 700 customers.
700 customers.
700 clients that have businesses that are granite shops or, over the years that we've sold to. Yeah.
And always in the same industry, so always the stone industry?
Yes. I've been always in, there was a small gap where we were repoing machines and we did resell some steel CNCs, glass CNCs, wood CNCs, glass machinery for a short period of time to some different companies, but mostly I would say 90% were the stone industry companies. So that would be granite, natural stone countertop, stone fabricators is what we call.
Right. And I assume everyone knows you in the stone industry because you're such a people person. That's number one.
Well,
like, you're so easygoing, and I think you can talk to anyone.
I think most of them do. We're not out there as much as we'd like to be, but I think at least they're getting to know us.
You're the guy who picks up the call and just gets it done. And not many, sometimes, we have so many snowflakes that are afraid to pick up the call, like pick up the phone and call someone and get it done. And, but the way you kind of do it, it's an art. It seems like it's just so natural to you.
Well, I believe in number one, answer the phone the same always for everybody. So no matter how, now you can't answer your phone all day long. That's not what I mean, but answer the phone in the same priority, whether you feel it's a sales call that's going to make you money, or if it's a problem or a fire. I call it, you have to put out fires as a business owner. And I'm in the manufacturing business. I'm in a manufacturing industry where my customers are manufacturing a product and I'm manufacturing a product, that I would venture to say that manufacturing is the toughest type of business that you can be in. I think it's one of the most stressful, if not the most stressful.
Because you have just so much responsibility.
There's so many moving parts.
So many
employees. There's so much moving parts. There's so much logistics involved. There's just, like I said, so many. It's not a SaaS company where you have a room full of 9 salespeople on the phone.
Just so people know, SaaS company is this software as a service. That's what you mean, right?
Yes.
It's not some
service
acronym
or
in the stone industry that I don't know.
It's not.
Okay.
I also like to, when I can, dabble in networking outside of the industry for self-education. I think self-education is very important.
That's what I've noticed about you, that the way you can spread your attention. Like I can't do it, although some of my mentors, they told me like you have to focus, but at some point they made mistakes, huge mistakes, because they didn't slightly open and they didn't go wider.
Yeah.
And I noticed that you're like we were talking about mics, for example, like for this podcast, you're like, oh, I was looking at the mics and this and that, and I know
Yeah.
you play guitar, by the way.
Yeah.
That's your are you a musician, or
So,
like who are you? Like, can I even like define you as the founder of Poseidon, innovator, creator, entrepreneur, salesman?
Going way back, my father had a big passion for music. And my father, too, is where I learned to really enjoy creating relationships. My father was...
Who was your father? But because you always talk about him that he was like a people person.
Yeah. He was he had a very special skill. I know you've seen me in front of people and how I act.
Yeah.
So if you can envision me and turn it up a couple notches, that was my dad. My dad was just completely, if there was a party, he wanted everybody to have a good time. He'd personally check in on everybody.
Kind of like an extrovert. Like
very extrovert, the opposite of my mom. So when he was a sales guy. So
what did he sell?
He sold all different types of products in Los Angeles, California. He sold for a lot of trading companies, a lot of importers. He was bilingual, so for instance, there was a gentleman, he brought in hundreds of thousands or millions of greeting cards that were coming in from Mexico, but this is the 1970s. They had these hologram type of pictures. So the holograms, you would turn them and you would see one image and then you turn them. It was a cool thing back then, right? This is technology back in the 70s. So he would get accounts like Walmart on behalf of the guy that was importing them. And a lot of these owners of companies in Los Angeles were Latino. And there was a lot of companies in Arizona and New Mexico and the bordering states around California that had a lot of Latino owners. And he was, able to create these relationships. And he was he was a very popular salesman. And one of the things that he did to something as make him stand out, but he also was like he loved people and he loved music. He wasn't a musician, but he had a room that he created in our house with a recording getup, almost like a mixing studio with big speakers, and he had boxes and boxes of long play records. And I remember that he would spend a lot of time at night making mixtapes for his customers. So
that was his that
was his thing. So
passion project. And
he'd say, hey, what do you love? Oh, you love the Bee Gees? You love Otis Redding? You love Tito Puente? You love, so he would mix the whole tape, customize it, and he would get them a mixtape, and he would love it. And then when there were parties, he'd have all of his mixtape playlists ready to go for the parties too, and he loved dancing. And so that passion for music, I inherited it, but when I was 5 or 6 years old, my mother made me take piano lessons, and I was really good at piano till like 7 years old. I was doing like recitals, and I was doing great. I was a very high level pianist. Then my parents moved to Miami, and I stopped taking the piano lessons, and I just completely stopped music. When I was in college, one day something inside of me I kept hearing music, thinking to myself, man, I would love to know what it feels like to play the guitar. And I just picked up the guitar, and I had a few friends that knew, like, they showed me basic chords and things like that. And I started teaching myself how to play the guitar and the bass. And I picked up the bass guitar. It was easier than the guitar. Then I picked up the guitar, and then I became good at playing the music that I liked, like The Cure, Depeche Mode, and all those bands from the 80s.
I've never heard you play, actually, so we have to.
Yeah, for sure. So I taught myself how to play, and I formed a band at the same time. This was my hobby while I started my tooling business in the stone industry.
You're in Miami?
I'm in Miami. I have a nice apartment on A1A that I bought myself after the first year I was in business.
How old are you?
I was 23 when I bought my first.
And the prices, especially in Miami.
Oh my God, it was amazing. I bought the apartment for $110,000.
Did you sell it later on?
Yes. Yes and no. So I got caught in the crash of 2007 with that apartment. So I had to short sale it um, not short sell it, but sell it for way less than I could have. It went up to $350,000 from 110 in 5 years, and then I think we settled on 150. But regardless, that apartment, my therapy or my passion was at night. I would write music, and I got more advanced. So I play the guitar, and then I would get a recorder, and then I would mix on the computer, and I'd record it into the computer. I would record the bass, I would record the guitar, and then I would record the vocals, and I would use drum loops to create the percussion, and I started writing songs. And I formed a band. We had a MySpace account and everything, and
MySpace, I
we were
remember.
doing
Yeah.
gigs, and when I could, I would do warehouse gigs. So where I was storing the machinery and my tooling, like 2006, 2007, 6 or 7, 6,
Yeah,
7.
yeah.
I ended up doing some warehouse concerts, which was pretty fun. And we would just play in this warehouse.
What did you learn from that experience from music that applies to your professional life, sales, running a business?
Well, the same thing
Poseidon.
is like what you're saying about going out to dinner and going out, right? Music is an experience that connects people, right? Having a meal together is an experience that connects people. Going to any kind of social event with the music in the background, right? And people are eating together and they're enjoying life, it improves the quality of life and the quality of your life experience. Right now, everything is just money, 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 money. You know, what am I getting? That's very transactional. So my father, he had a real deep affection for his friends and his customers.
Very
And
relational guy.
very relationship.
Was he an immigrant with your mom?
Yeah, yeah.
Where did
My
they come
parents,
from?
they came from Lima, Peru in 1965. They came to the United States. So my mother worked for Kodak, which was an American company in South America. And she came with a work visa to Los Angeles for an opportunity to work
Wow.
in Los Angeles with a work visa for Kodak. And that's how she was able to come with my father. And they came with work visas, and then they got their residency. They were
So she brought your father
under her work
under
visa.
her.
Yeah, because they were married. They had just gotten married. And so they took all their life savings, and they did some good real estate investments. And
Do you have any siblings, or
yeah, I have an older brother and sister. One's 6 years older than me. The other one's 5
are you guys close?
Oh yeah,
together?
we're very close. And so they we were born into my parents' American dream. American dream because by the time I was 5, 6 years old, I was already going to private school. We
Oh
were
wow.
vacationing in Italy. We have family in Italy, in Rome. So we were vacationing between South America, Italy as
Right.
kids.
So you experienced the
Yeah, and we were
kind of like a,
financially.
what do you call it? Not poor, but like mid. What do you call it? Like
We were, I would say, upper middle class.
upper middle class.
Yeah,
Wow.
upper middle class. Yeah, we were at a very nice part of Los Angeles, in a place called Eagle Rock between Pasadena and Glendale.
So you're on the West Coast, full experience. You're
Yeah.
like you inherited pretty much from your parents. Like
Yeah,
they
like
came here,
I'm growing up
immigrants.
like that movie E.T. when they're riding their bikes in the hills, and that's how I'm growing up. You know,
Wow.
I'm growing up the complete American
You have
1980s.
like the most interesting combination that I can think of in the US. Not only you have this, because you speak so many languages.
No, yeah,
and,
I'm just very lucky that
Spanish, Italian, American. I don't know what other languages you speak. German. I don't know.
I was born in Hollywood, Presbyterian Hospital. I was born in actually Hollywood, California. So I grew up. My parents on the weekends we'd go to Universal Studios. Like you know how some people plan for the year to go to Universal Studios. We go to the Universal Studios like once every couple months, you know, because it was in town. It was in Los Angeles.
Right.
So we'd go to Universal Studios. We go to a place called Knott's Berry Farm. We go to you know the Chinese Man's Theater, where the Hollywood stars are on
I mean,
the
you
sidewalk.
lived the life. That was the best time to be on the West
Oh, yeah.
Coast.
The best.
We didn't have all that,
Yeah, this
you
was
know,
like
BS that we have right now.
early 80s,
It
mid
was
1980s.
like everybody wanted in the whole world. I mean, the movies were, you know, made their
best movies that
best
I think
movies.
ever came out. You know, like we grew up with Star Wars and the Goonies and
The
know.
money, you know, like people were fit and healthy, and
Yeah,
the money was there. I mean, the
Los
weather,
Angeles was like
awesome weather.
pop culture mecca, Los Angeles at the time. You know, a lot of the movies were filmed in Los Angeles. A lot of the music movement came from Los Angeles. You know, if you think about all the rock and roll, Motley Crue was on the Sunset Strip. You know, the rock and roll, the heavy metal bands. If you think of also what was very big was the Britpop. You know, the '80s, the new wave of the
Right, yeah,
'80s
yeah.
also. Um, that that was all centered in LA, and then we moved to Miami when I was 7 years old. We moved to that was a complete cultural shift. Um, you know, in LA, everybody speaks English mostly, and in Miami, it was the opposite. You know, you had half Latino.
But have you ever like stopped and analyzed that from like more macro level, looking down, the moment stuff kind of started going bad in a way, you know, maybe with the administration and, you know, whatever is going on in California right now, or and then you move to the, you know, the East Coast, and the action now kind of starts happening on the East Coast. You were kind of here,
Yeah, I mean,
you know, years before
yeah, it was
it became kind of popular again, and now I kind of feel like, you know, like the action kind of moves from the West Coast now to the East Coast, and you moved here again a few
yeah.
years.
One thing that we were excited about because we watch TV all day. You know, if you grow up in the '80s, you're very much that's where your information is. There's no internet, so anything you see on TV or in the movies, like that's your world, right?
Okay.
And a show that became very popular, it was like the hottest show on TV, was Miami Vice.
Of course.
And so there's an opening scene in Miami Vice where you see these beautiful houses on the water, and they have these glass blocks that are the windows. That's what they would put sometimes in these fancy mansions. You know, they color them pink. What was very popular back then was Art Deco, they'd call it. It was a style of architecture that was very popular in the 1980s. That was kind of like a revitalization of vintage style from like the 50s and the 60s. They called it Art Deco. And these mansions, you see this opening scene in Miami Vice, there's this mansion with the ice blocks as the window or the wall. They're very thick, they're bricks but this was the trend. And that was a very iconic opening to this TV series, which was really hot. Well, that house was in the neighborhood where my parents moved us to.
Oh, wow.
In Miami. It was called Miami Shores. That's where I grew up, Miami Shores. And now I didn't grow up in the nice, wealthy part where those houses are, which is by the bay. So you have like the nice part of town, which is near the water by the bay. And then you have where I lived, which was further on the outside, close to I-95 or close to the freeway. And I lived a little bit on the outskirts of that neighborhood. And but it was very cool that I grew up in this neighborhood, which was very much like, you know, we rode our bikes all over. If you watch that series Stranger Things on Netflix, that's how I grew up. You know, all my friends, we'd all ride our bikes everywhere, sleep over everybody's houses, you know, and very close community. Yeah. So I grew up, I mean, I'm American. My parents are immigrants.
Right, of course. But you still have that mixture, like spending time with you. You have this kind of Latino vibe to you. It's obviously because, you know, your parents are Latinos.
Growing up in Miami,
you're growing
too,
up in Miami.
Traveling to other countries as a young kid, and
so it's just an interesting. You know, you're a character. I can tell you that. But
the stone industry too is very diverse.
And that came in Miami. The stone industry that all kind of was born in Miami.
Yeah, well, what happened was I grew up in Miami, right? Until I was about 18, 19. I never really spoke Spanish that much, or the Italian. But my parents split up, unfortunately, when I was about 10 years old. And my mother was always working.
So who did you live with?
My mom.
In Miami?
Yeah.
Your dad stayed on the
My
on the
dad
West
tried
Coast?
to make things happen and moved out of the house and lived either in Miami, but then he went to South America for a few years to try to make things happen there, which was a bad idea. And then my mom was working a lot of jobs, and to kind of keep me out of trouble and, you know, being on the streets with my friends in the summer times, riding my bike unsupervised, she sent me to Rome, where I would live with my cousins.
What about your siblings?
My siblings were a little older at the time, so they already were working part-time jobs. They were a little more independent, so she wasn't too concerned about them.
So she's
They were,
focused on you.
yeah,
No.
my sister was very responsible, and she kind of just shipped me out, and she knew I'd have a really good experience going to Italy, living there. I mean, as a young kid, I'm driving by the Colosseum all the time with my cousins, and I'm going to the Roman forums and all the ancient sites. Like, it's just normal, you know. And every church you go in Rome, there's some kind of religious artifact that exists from hundreds of years ago.
Were you like very observant? Like,
Oh,
were
yeah.
you interested in that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I was very interested in. I studied a lot, like the religion, Catholicism.
Yeah, because you're very educated. Like,
Yeah.
you can always talk about history, culture.
No, yeah, I've always been. I've been lucky that I've been curious about
You are very
a lot of
curious,
stuff,
yeah.
and I like learning as much as I can. I feel like the more you know about anything, the richer your life experience can be. And so that's where I got into the stone industry on a summer off of college, and then from there I decided to just really learn this industry. While I was in college, I became very lucky that the gentleman I worked for, even though I was very young, he gave me a very important position in his company as an imports
Your
manager.
dad's in Peru.
No, this is here in Florida.
Right, but what about
Oh
your
yeah,
dad?
my dad. No, my dad by this time he had moved back to Miami. He lived in
Okay,
Miami.
so
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Are you in touch
And
with
so,
him?
oh yeah. We're in touch. He's working.
Because you always refer to your dad. My
Yeah.
dad's, was selling. I've learned from my
Yeah,
dad.
yeah.
So
No,
we'll talk about that.
yeah, no, I learned from him because he's so like he loved people. He's very charismatic. He really loved to make sure everybody, like I said, was having a good time. And I think that just passion for caring about the relationship. That's where I never took any sales lessons. And one day, the gentleman that I was working for, where I was the imports manager, he didn't have, I think a couple salespeople didn't show up. And so he's like, I need you to work sales today. And I was like, I don't know what and he's like, no, just see what people need and be honest and
Yeah.
be yourself. Don't worry,
And there was no like, oh,
was
you
it.
need to take the sales scores, this stuff.
Yeah,
That's
no.
like
And then I
this
was like,
technique,
okay,
that
yeah.
technique, this gimmick, that gimmick.
And then I had a gentleman that came up to me, and there was a couple guys that they looked at me like, who is this kid? I was a kid. I was 18, 19 years old, And one gentleman was older. I'll never forget him. His name is may he rest in peace. His name was Mr. Estevez. Mr. Estevez was an older gentleman, Cuban gentleman that was a tile installer. So he wanted to buy travertine material that we were importing from Italy. And I think that he loved the fact that I was young and he could tell I was honest and that I was a hard worker and I wanted to get things done and I wanted to make things happen. And so he would give me the chance, and he ended up trusting me, liking me, and going on to buy hundreds of thousands of dollars of tile from me. And I would just see what he needed and told him, look, because I was the imports manager, so I knew all the pricing. I was like, look, man, this is a really good deal. This price is only 50
So
cents
being
over
in
cost.
now you understand, being in Rome, you open the doors for you because you've learned about history, culture, you made those connections, now you have the network and you can make that transaction happen.
And he was Cuban, and I grew up in Miami with all Cuban Americans, and
that's why your wife
living
is
the
Cuban.
Cuban experience. And my wife is Cuban. It's impossible to avoid Cubans, right? A lot of them joke and they say, some of my friends are like, you're more Cuban than I am, And so it's a very wonderful culture. Cubans, they're very proud.
That's right.
Very hardworking.
Very family oriented.
Family oriented. They'll give the shirt off their backs for you. They despise laziness, and in general, they admire hard work. They want to live the American dream. I mean, like most immigrants, I believe, that come to this country. And that was just something that I was able to connect with him. And then little by little, I made the same connections in Italy. So I got sent to Italy. I actually wanted to study there. So I went to go apply at American
How old are you now?
When I'm doing that, I'm 20 years old.
So that's after Mr. Estevez's experience.
Yes.
You're going back to Italy. So
here I am, like a great sales guy, but I'm also doing the imports. So I'm in the purchasing department. I'm involved in inventory. I have like a semi-executive position at this company. But keep in mind, I'm only 19, 20, so I'm literally going to college full time also. I had a major and I had an academic scholarship to any Florida State college. And I was studying pre-medicine, which I knew at that point I didn't want to be a doctor. And so I switched it to mechanical engineering with computer information systems. So I was actually taking C++ programming, intermediate programming, JavaScript, Visual Basic, and
Like a Michelangelo.
no, I mean, I knew I wanted to learn. I was young, so this was the time, right? So I applied to an American college in Rome, and they accepted me, and my credits could transfer. So I told the gentleman I was working for, hey, in 5 months, I'm going to leave. I'm going to go study abroad for a semester or two, because I feel like it's the time to do it, you know? And I was very overloaded from working so much. I worked all through high school too. I was working since I was 13 at restaurants. There's a funny story. I started my first job while I was a pancake at IHOP, International House of Pancakes.
Yeah,
okay?
yeah.
And so I decided to go to Italy. So a month before I leave, the gentleman I work for is very gracious. He said, you know, no problem.
Mr.
Go.
Estaves,
No, this is the owner of the company I worked for. Mr. Esteves was my
customer.
but this gentleman was Walter Casale, Casale Marble Imports. And so for those in the stone industry that are from West Palm Beach, Fort Lauderdale, and they've been in the industry, they know exactly who he is, and he's a great, amazing person. Amazing entrepreneur, inspirational. Same thing, charismatic, extremely like this guy in 2 seconds. He told me, he said, why don't you, while you're living in Italy and studying there, he goes, how many days are your classes? Well, 2 days a week. He said, why don't you go inspect the containers and go up and visit the factories in Carrara and go to Tivoli where the travertine comes from.
Very
and go
smart.
visit and then he said, and you make sure that they send us the right material, because in natural stone, you have to buy a certain amount of select commercial grade, which is the nice looking stone, if you want the nice stuff, which is the select. So sometimes they would put too much commercial in the containers, right? So I would go, and then I started traveling to all the different trade shows, representing this large company in the
While
United
studying.
States, while studying in Italy.
And they would pay for it.
They were paying me my full-time salary. They were giving me a company credit card. I had bought a used Italian car, an Opel,
Wow.
a stick shift, you know?
Opel,
So,
yeah.
Astra.
Astra,
Opel
yeah.
Astra,
Very popular car.
Yeah. And 1.5 liter engine, 1.4. And so I would drive to Carrara. And I would go around with the top factory owners to the trade shows, out to dinner, and I would make these connections. So I met the leaders,
All
and
in
the salespeople, all in Italian. Yeah. I met them, and the tooling companies, the machine companies, the slab companies.
So you're European, Latino, American.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
all
a
of that.
citizen of the world, you know?
Like a,
I don't believe in, I believe in, we're in the best country in the world, but we're all one.
I like what you said.
One race, you know?
I like what you just said.
We're all
I'm a
human.
citizen of the world.
Yeah.
That's an interesting frame if you
We
think
don't,
about
we
it.
don't own anything.
People think I'm from this country,
We
I'm
don't
from
own
Poland.
anything. The United States doesn't own anything. Italy doesn't own anything. There's boundaries, there's borders, there's language, but at the end of the day, everybody wants the same thing. They want the best thing for the family. They want to have purpose. They want to leave a legacy. They want to take care of their family. They want to enjoy life at the end of the day, right?
What do you want? What's your purpose?
I would love to leave an impact on the world, right? Make the world a better place than when I left it, and contribute something. You know, I think that everybody has a blessing. Everybody has the same abilities, is something that I do think. So, you know, my brother will say to me sometimes, he'll say to me, man, but you were blessed, like you're just born blessed.
Yeah.
And
What's he mean?
I think that he means, he believes that I have all these talents, but none of the talents that you would call talents, I didn't get them. I didn't have them. I only could have them after hundreds or thousands of hours of trying to develop them, right?
So it's not just the talent, it's development and work.
I purposefully took the books, like I took books on Spanish and Italian, even though I spoke it, I wanted to learn how to read it.
You're a student. Like I've noticed,
Yeah.
every time we go somewhere, you always very curious, observant,
Right.
high energy,
Yeah, exactly.
talking to people and
So
studying.
I just really believe that anything is possible. I think my mom would always say anything is possible. You can do anything. And I guess my subconscious ended up believing her. And so anything that I've always wanted to try, I always thought first, I can do this. And you'll notice that if you can convince yourself I can do this, then automatically your brain will operate while you're trying to learn it in a more relaxed way. And if you're more relaxed, then you have a better chance of being successful at anything that you're trying.
Right.
If you're relaxed and you need to walk on a tightrope, because we're at a very high building right now, from this building to that building, you have a better chance of making it across if you're relaxed. You can balance better, right?
Interesting. Where does Poseidon come into picture? Where, at what point do you start Poseidon?
So I was, when I was starting my first company, it's called Spectre Diamond Products. And then I got into machinery. Somebody asked me for a machine. I wasn't meaning to get into machinery. It was just that I was selling tools. I was in Miami, and it was a very bad part of Miami, downtown Miami. Before it's as beautiful as it is now, it's called Midtown today.
Right.
Before it was Midtown, it was called, it was just downtown. It was like, this gentleman was on 21st Street in North Miami Avenue. His name was Isaac Martinez. God rest his soul. He's an older gentleman, Cuban also. And I started selling him tooling. And he's like, hey, Joselito. He's like, I heard you speaking Italian he's telling me in Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
I heard you speaking Italian on the phone, on my flip phone, my big, huge phone, which was also like a self-defense weapon. He says to me, hey, I heard you speaking Italian. Can you find me a used cutting machine? So I'm like, sure, let me try. So I call Italy and, oh yeah, I can find you. So I ended up selling him a machine. I made like 12% commission. It was 30,000 euros.
Commission?
Yeah, I made commission because the factory I sold it for, they gave me a commission when he paid. And I oversaw him taking this machine out and I started learning. I got interested because I thought to myself, I loved the responsibility and the challenge of being responsible for saying I sold the machine to this guy.
What does it mean? Explain.
I can sell you a slab of stone.
Yeah.
And I can sell you tools for your business every month. But what greater pride and honor can I have than if I can say Marcin bought the machine from me? Marcin trusted me with the main workhorse for his livelihood, for his business.
You power those businesses, their families, their futures.
I felt like that was the biggest contribution I could make.
You're a huge part of their.
Not the easiest, for sure.
You carry them on your back.
Yeah, because if they have a problem, you better believe you're going to know about it. And it's a high stress situation when the machine's down, or the machine's not cutting there, And so that led me to the journey of getting into machinery. And then I started learning how to do the machinery. And from 2001, when I started selling machinery, to 2008, I had sold over 125, 130 machines.
That's
just by
a lot of
hustling and
units.
grinding and driving around. Yeah, and because what's ended up started happening was people would want full lineup of machines. So one customer, I'd sell 2, 3, 4 machines. And so that's how I started compounding. Then my reputation got popular in Florida, but then the crash came. So then the economy stopped.
Yeah.
And then we had to start repossessing machines for the banks. And there was a certain point that, I never focused as a businessman. In the beginning, I was so young and I came from a mom working 3 jobs that my goal was just, how do I generate income? How do I make money? And something I learned when I lost everything, because I pretty much lost everything in the crash of 2008.
2008.
I had to liquidate all I didn't want to fire anybody. And so we lost everything. And
so you're going up, 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 and then.
Yeah.
plummet.
Yeah, I was a millionaire, net worth millionaire by the time I was 24.
Wow, congrats.
You know, within just a couple years of it's easy to take off in the stone industry.
Were you always in the stone industry at that time? Just like all your chips in this
Yeah,
industry?
yeah. My only other job at that time before I was working in the stone industry was I was always working in a supermarket first and then restaurants. I was a
Were you
waiter.
studying finances? Were you studying like I
Yeah.
would invest here in the stock market?
I was
this, that?
studying everything. Yeah, I was reading every book you could think of. My first book, Think and Grow Rich, there was a consultant that the gentleman hired for the company when I was working for them in Casale, that we took an aptitude test, all the executives, and I was considered a part of the executive, but I was very young. He pulls me aside. I wish I could find that gentleman. His name was Tony something. I can't remember his last name. And he was a consultant. He used to sell insurance. So he pulled me aside. He's like, man, I've never had anybody score this high on this exam. He's like, you're meant to be an entrepreneur. Like this guy really, or at least maybe his intention was to just motivate me. But his belief,
you bought it.
I bought it. You know, he goes, you need to read 2 books. And I go, which ones? So I go to Barnes and Nobles, right? This isn't like today where you go on Amazon and Audible.
Right.
Or
you
whatever.
go to one of the indie booksellers.
I go to the bookstore and I'm like, okay, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, which is an amazing book.
He told you about that book.
And the other one was The Richest Man in Babylon by George Clason. So I bought those 2 books. I read them, like studied them, like up and down.
Right.
And I started getting inspired to be an entrepreneur.
And where do you deploy your capital, energy, focus? Where do you go into the stone
industry? And I start focusing on relationship building. I focus on making good deals, being fair. And I learn, because selling is the same as my position in the imports. You're negotiating, even though I'm purchasing from somebody and they're trying to sell to me, a supplier. The relationship is the same. We both need each other, and you're negotiating, trying to do the best so that everybody wins. Some people negotiate so only they win, which you can do that. I may have been able to negotiate a lot of things way better.
How would you? What's your key takeaway on negotiating deals with so many clients?
It's a personal preference. There's some people that they negotiate till the last drop. In other words, they negotiate so that there's no meat on the bone left for the other person, but the other person has to do it. But they're not really helping that person grow.
Right.
So when you negotiate the best deal for yourself, in my opinion, it should be, because there is competition. So if I'm the buyer, I could go, but I want to make it at least 60-40, not 50-50. It's difficult to make it 50-50.
Right.
But 60-40, there's a little bit of favoritism to the buyer side. But at the same time, it all depends on the context and the deal that you're getting, right? So you want to try to make it somewhat equal. There's some people that they try to negotiate, beat up the supplier. And I don't like to do that if it's me. Other people, they love to do that, and they will do that, okay? But in my mind, if I buy $5 million worth of materials to make machinery, etc., whatever it is that I'm buying every year, rather than me try to negotiate that extra 10 or 15% on the deal, I rather be more dynamic at my marketing, and just, if I sell one more thing in 1 month, I'll make up that difference rather than.
So basically, you're talking about like build your pipeline, be out there, and don't worry about this one guy that will just
build your pipeline.
That will just squeeze you to
if
the
I'm
last
selling, right? Because at the same time, I can avoid those people too.
Right.
Because they're not relationship; they're transactional.
But you'll still do the deal with them.
Yes, but you also learn. Because here's the thing: you also want to build relationships where your business can grow. And I understand that I want my suppliers' businesses to grow too.
Repeating customer.
If they're taking care of me, right? And at the same time, that customer, not the only value is what is the money transaction. Because there's been a lot of customers that, I remember the ones that don't beat me up, and then I will take care of them extra special, because I appreciate that they didn't sit there and try to hold me to the last drop.
So it is very much personal in
But it's a
this
personal
situation.
preference because it depends. Because there are businessmen out there that maybe they have more. You know, maybe they'll get more out of the deal, and they're happy like that. Maybe because maybe they're just more focused on their family. And I like to build relationships long term. That when I walk into a place, when I go into anywhere, when I go to industry events, people genuinely want to shake my hand, and are not just doing it because it's good for business and good for
Right.
optics. Does that make sense?
You're very, very relational, not transactional.
Yeah.
How much are you guys charging for the? Because also it's interesting. You said I spent 5 million on the materials to develop the machine. Then you still have to spend on maintenance, and it's a
Yeah, I mean,
product development. It's tough.
I'm just giving like
It's very
an
tough.
example. Like
But
if
the
I
guy
buy
comes to you,
one
pays
commodity.
a fraction of the price that you've spent, and you're spending to develop the product, provide the support, and all of that. He spends a fraction of that, and he's, give me everything,
Right,
just
right,
give me
right.
the whole shop.
Yeah.
For like, what are you paying? Like 300,000? Like you've spent probably 30 million over the years on just the whole deal.
It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money to do what we do.
So that's how you communicate to them, like, hey, we've spent 30 million on the development, and you
No.
pay like fraction of that, or how do you
No,
build value?
I honestly don't have any problems nowadays. I would say in the last 5 to 10 years in my career, I really don't have a problem too much negotiating price. Sometimes you get one, that he's very price. But the reality is with what we do, it's very easy to show the value of what we're proposing, because what we're doing is something that hasn't been done before in the industry, which is one machine with one operator represents a team of people, which isn't the same for our competition. So for example, if somebody buys just a sawing machine, and I'm talking about a one machine solution, one process solution,
Yeah.
they're only getting the cutting aspect of the process of making countertops. So they're only getting, I'm cutting this slab into the basic shapes of the kitchen. Now I still have to finish it, which finishing is what's important. Who cares how fast you can cut? Doesn't matter. That's what everybody talks about because that's easily measurable and they have control over that.
Mm-hmm.
But nobody knows how long it takes really, truly to finish the countertop. And so what ends up happening is you have to buy a second machine to finish the countertop from my competition. And so our solution is